Well, well, well. It's Sheriff Dombrowski from We Summon the Darkness. Just wanted to say to you, stay out of trouble. I don't want to have to pull you over for any reason, and I don't want to hear any noise complaints either. We Summon the Darkness. It's a lovely movie starring Alexander Daddario and Johnny Knoxville. It was an absolute blast to be on that set. There's a lot of fake blood everywhere, and Austin Swift can tell you a little bit more about that. It was everywhere. Just absolutely everywhere. All the time. Blood everywhere. But hey, more importantly, I think there is something I should say to you. Don't go out there.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie
Welcome back,
Podcast.
everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast. Just want to thank all of our fans and listeners. We really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgooutthere.com. My man Brian has done a fantastic job with the website. He's got it looking great. Everything about our podcast is on there. All of our episodes and interviews from episode 1 to our weekly release. If you want to check out all of our episodes there, maybe you have an office job, don't have access to your phone, you can listen on your desktop computer. We've done some incredible interviews in the past with some of the biggest names in horror, some of your favorite slashers, writers, directors. Check out our interviews if you haven't heard those yet. We got our store. We got some new T-shirts. Brian and Dustin have done some fantastic designs if you want to check those out. And we also have Shan's Etsy page attached as well if you want to grab a tumbler. And we also have our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We love interacting with our fans. We love meeting new people. We love answering your comments and questions on the air. So definitely check us out on social media. And the last thing we'll shout out is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. You're a big fan of our podcast, a big fan of our show. You want to help support us. That option is available. And we also have one-time donations. If you want to donate and, if you have a film review you want us to do, that option is available as well. All right, guys, on to the film review. I'm super excited for this one. And we got another Blood Donor review. Final guide donor, Michael Evans. He chose 2019's We Summon the Darkness. Before we jump into our general thoughts, just want to thank all of our blood donors right off the rip. We've done a few blood donor reviews recently. Got another one next week. We really appreciate the financial support. It helps us pay the bills, and we can't thank y'all enough. And shout out to the government for one time only for changing the 1099 law.
Let's go.
Shout out to y'all for that. That $6.99, I ain't gonna lie, had me stressed out, but we didn't go out there.
Same.
Sweet. All right, anywho, nice. 2019, We Summon the Darkness. I had not seen this movie or even heard of it. But, whenever the donation was made, Brian's like, it's got Johnny Knoxville, Alexander Daddario, two very recognizable names. I was excited to watch it. I thought the movie was pretty decent. Is it the best movie I've ever seen? Nope. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, it was pretty fun. And if you go to our TikTok page, one of the most viewed TikToks we have is Dustin saying a movie like that could realistically happen to you. And if I was one of these single guys at a rock show, I'm going back to those girls' house. Like it is what it is. I'm going to be one of the victims there. So It's realistic to a point to me. I enjoyed the movie. I didn't think it was great. I do have two really big issues that just pissed me off, which I guess it's a writing issue, but if they do what I think they should have done, the movie's just over. You know what I'm saying? But I enjoyed it for what it was. Brian, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm definitely the fat guy that got killed first because I'm running my mouth, I'm talking shit, and I'm going to get stabbed. So that would have been me 100%. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I thought it was fine. I thought it was a fun little popcorn movie, and you could put this on really whenever. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is when I watched it, like I just went through that hell month that these guys put me through with Terrifier 2, Human Centipede. My mind was mush after Beau is Afraid. So this became almost like a welcomed palate cleanser. And honestly, that surprised me because I expected this, as I think Dustin did as well, to be so much darker than it was. But it's almost like this, and I think this was this is a major problem like a lot of people on the interwebs have, but it's like halfway between this dark comedy and yet takes itself seriously in places. Halfway, though, especially, like there's this tonal shift, and you think, okay, this is about to get hardcore. but it doesn't fully commit to that. And it went almost more fun, and that surprised me. And I was in the headspace for a movie like that, so it was a pleasant surprise for me. Did I love it like Nico? No. I definitely have a ton of nitpicks with it and issues with it in some places. Overall, I had fun with it. And when I watched it, that was a welcome change of tone.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me back, guys. If I sound like I'm sick, it's because I fucking am. Anyway, look, maybe it's the headspace I've been in lately because, we're going back to Winnie, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey here, where I gave it a 7.5 and shocked everybody and everything else. I really like this movie. I thought it was very fun. I'm not sure how much the twist that comes along makes any sense, but I almost just was willing to forgive it. You mentioned Hell Month that we went through, Brian. This was definitely a fucking palate cleanser from all the movies that we watched. And, whether I like those movies or not, this movie was actually fun. It was really fun to turn on. I do agree with what both of you have said here. It doesn't commit to being a horror comedy, but doesn't commit to being a full horror movie either. It really toes the line of doing a lot of things at once. So I do, that's a small nitpick to me, and that's really only upon watching it twice. The first time I watched it and took my notes, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fast-paced. It flew by. Really liked this cast. By the way, I would like to put We Summon the Darkness into the Don't Go Out There, Call Me Sometime Hall of Fame, up there with Scream 4. I'm going to give it its rightful trophy inside of the Call Me Sometime Hall of Fame because there are multiple in this film. I really like the idea of the story, kind of going at certain tropes for, zealots on both sides of the aisle. It kind of flips a lot of narratives around. And I don't know if it lands all of those punches it tries to pull, but I commend it for trying. And I think there's some surprising acting performances here. Some of the way the movie is shot, I'm not a big fan of. There's parts where they turn the lights out I think don't work at all. But I still think good popcorn watch, really good intro to horror, if you ask me. And I put it up there with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey as far as just how much fun I had watching it the first time I watched it. So that's the kind of score you guys can expect this evening. Just a little bit of a heads up. Maybe not that high, but it's close.
Yeah, I guess I'm the Lone Ranger here. I didn't really care for it. No, I didn't hate it. I wouldn't go out of my way to avoid watching it. We've definitely, especially lately, reviewed films that are much, much worse. But I thought it was pretty bad. The acting was bad. I thought a lot of the directing was bad across the board. And you can have some fun with it, sure. And I get what you're saying. It definitely is a popcorn horror feel, like an intro to horror, that kind of movie. I don't think I'm the right target demographic for it. Didn't appeal to me. Now, I went into it open-minded because I had no idea what the hell it was about. I didn't read the description before. I had never heard of it before it was picked. Judging off of the one movie poster I saw where it had a pentagram and a fire, and then couple that with the title of the movie, I thought that this was going to be some demonic possession movies. So pleasantly surprised in that regard. But I went into it open-minded, and through the first set of scenes, still open-minded, and then just kind of slowly fizzled out from there. Didn't really do much for me.
All right, guys, any more opening thoughts? We just jump into the scene by scene. Shout out to Michael Evans, blood donor. Really appreciate it. Indiana, 1988. We meet a trio of college-age girls driving to a concert. They're talking about makeup, sex, and Val says she hasn't showered in 2 days and has to pee. She has a weak bladder. Alexis is being that person and won't stop. Shout out to my man Brian. Me and him always stop to pee. Shout out to my guy. She agrees to stop at the next gas station to get more snacks after finding out they have no more ding-dongs. Val gets creepy looks from a man as she pumps gas. The creepy man's family gets into the car and they drive away. Pastor John Henry Butler is on the TV as the girls shop for snacks. The cashier tells them to be safe from all the evil out there. They're back on the road and the radio speaks on a grisly murder scene done by a satanic cult. A van passes their car and their windshield is covered with a chocolate milkshake. They pull over, cuss at them, and Val pops another squat. They get back in the car and they've made it to the concert. They park and take some shots of Jaeger. Disgusting. Val spots the van that threw a milkshake on their windshield. She gets revenge by throwing some of the fireworks into their van, scaring them. Three dudes exit the van. They're flustered and try to apologize for what they did. Ivan gives the ladies some PBRs as a token of forgiveness. They all introduce themselves. Alexis and Val want to dip, but Bev wants to hang out and smoke. And there's a lot of dialogue here. They start to talk about all the deaths by the satanic cult. Mark corrects them and says the number is 18. Kovacs calls out Ivan, saying his first show is Casey and the Sunshine Band, and the group all go inside to see the show. Brian, that's the opening set of scenes. What'd you think?
All right, so first of all, I'm a huge fan of True Detective Season 1, maybe my favorite season of anything I've ever watched. So naturally, Alexandra Daddario can't do much wrong in my eyes. And with that said, the chemistry between these girls is very, very good to me. Daddario, I think, is great throughout, but Maddie Hasson as Val is also top tier for me. I mean, this is the first thing I've seen her in, but she impressed me in this movie for sure. So I do really like this group of girls right now, like I've stated. And upon first watch, I'm thinking, okay, like these are my three victims. One or two will be the final girls. So I'm already kind of connecting with them in that way or so. And as we'll come to later, that kind of becomes problematic from a movie point of view, if that makes sense. Maybe it will later. It'll make sense anyway. I just never connected with any of these band guys like I was supposed to, like as a viewer, I think. But we'll get more into that. None were really likable to me at all. Also, the fact that they had Alexis taste the milkshake that was on her car to find out that it was in fact a milkshake, nobody would fucking do that. Like, especially when it looked like it could be literal shit. Not buying that. It's fucking disgusting. My other issue is, like, I watched this through one full time and never did I catch at all that this was supposed to take place in the 80s. Like, I completely missed the hints and cues throughout, but it sure as hell to me didn't feel like the 80s to me. Like, I guess I didn't notice the lack of cell phones, and maybe that was the reason why they put it in the 80s. I don't know. But Stranger Things feels like the 80s. I didn't care for Totally Killer, but it felt like the 80s. Like, this to me didn't at all. Which, again, like, if that's what you're going for, this movie definitely failed on that level. I also want to give credit to director Mark Myers. Like, this is the first movie of his I've seen as well. But on a cinematic level, I thought it was shot fantastically by Taron Anderson, the director of photography, along with the cuts. It was a very well done film on a technical level. That's all I had.
All right, this may be the most that I have here because I think some of the stuff later, I'm just kind of like watching it as it unfolds. So bear with me for a second as I try not to cough through this. First of all, I just want to say I, too, fuck with my eyes closed. So fucking with your eyes open is kind of, I don't know what's up with that. Anyway, not showering in 2 days. Almost maybe want to take her off my call me sometime list, but I couldn't do it with all good conscience. I just can't do it. I actually agree with you, Brian. I already really like the dynamic between these three. Like, I just feel like they could be real friends. There's always kind of one that's an oddball, and I feel like that's what Bev is here. But I really like their connection. I feel like it really works on screen. First of all, Johnny fucking Knoxville would not have guessed this was going to be a foreshadowing. But to me, as an actor, I've never really enjoyed Johnny Knoxville's work. Just me personally. Now, I love Jackass. So, like, I'm not a Johnny Knoxville hater. Like, I love everything they've ever done.
Come
like,
on.
You cannot commit what?
Dukes of Hazzard, The Ringer. Come on.
See, to me, he's outshined. Well, The Ringer is funny, but he's outshined at Dukes of Hazzard to me, man. Sean William Scott's the fucking man. But I see what you're saying, okay? All right. But to me, he's never been a solid actor in a lot of the stuff he's in. So I really thought, oh, that's interesting casting choice. I'll save my thoughts more on him for later on. How many movies do you guys think we've done where there's a creepy gas station scene? But like, I bet the count is really fucking high at this point. Like, almost every movie or every other film we do has some creepy gas station scene. That's kind of a horror trope. I do like the fact that this guy thinks these girls are nice girls. No, these girls are pretty clearly assholes from the very fucking beginning, especially to each other. So, I thought it was kind of interesting. It didn't look like a chocolate milkshake to me. Kind of looked like someone threw a shit bomb on their car, which I don't know why you would ever throw a shit bomb at somebody, but you know, it's very possible, especially on the
on my front porch.
Hey, buddy, I'll lie about that later. This is going to be the second time me shitting on your porch is mentioned in this show. Just you fucking wait. Again, I really like these three. I don't like the guys. I don't like this band that they end up, or quote unquote band that they end up meeting. And I agree with Brian. Their chemistry feels a little off to me. I will say these three kind of feel like they're hitting way out of their league. Like, I don't know. These fuckers are swinging like Barry Bonds out here, so good for them. But I just kind of felt like, I don't know if I could see these three with those three. But it was the 80s. That's another thing you touched on, and I'll try to wrap it up here. We've seen a lot of movies make it feel like the 80s. This movie does not do that. Like, there is no connection to the 80s except for the music. To me, like, even the way they dress isn't like super 80s. It kind of feels like early 2000. Like I'm just not I'm not believing that it's the 80s as much as I should. But that's a small nitpick to me. How come every time a group of guy friends want to hang out with each other, it's got to be a fucking circle jerk? Why can't men just hang out and be fucking friends? It's always got to be some insinuation about being in a fucking circle jerk. I'm sick of the fucking malarkey from you people. Also, shout out to Tallahassee mention, Go Knowles, brother. It's clear, and this was a little bit of an Easter egg, that Alexis didn't know shit about metal music. Not a fucking thing. And so that was a little bit, when my radar went up, I thought that was interesting. Last thing, I enjoyed the banter here, just kind of talking about metal music, talking about rock. Makes me feel nice that someone's acknowledging a decent form of music. Okay, go ahead.
All right, this is the most that I have as well. I like the open, how we just get sounds of outdoors and then opening credits on a black screen, and then we cut to the rabbit in the road with the card that says 1998 or 1988. So Brian definitely missed that. In the car, I honestly couldn't tell you what they were talking about. I was distracted by Val's Eugene Levy eyebrows. The fuck was that about? Johnny Knoxville is a televangelist in this movie. I mean, it's just as believable as a real estate tycoon / reality TV host being president, so that's fine. I had no problems with that. I love how back in the car, Beverly changed the radio channel, and then Alexa said she wanted to listen to that, so she went back to it, and she didn't miss a single word. Like, the guy just picked back up like it was paused when you changed the channel. That's one of those little things that movies, some movies fail at doing. That's not believable. Drinking Jaeger at the concert, what a bunch of badasses these girls are. With that one shot of 70 proof liquor, whew, they're probably plastered. Fucking amateurs. The three douchebags in the van are some of the worst actors that we've covered on the show. Painful to watch. Then again, none of these six main actors were that great to me. Daddario was definitely the best, but I didn't even think that she was that great. Austin Swift was terribly miscast to me. Like, I think that he's good. I've seen him in some other stuff, and like Live by Night or Live by Night, whatever that movie's called. He's a fine enough actor, but he's miscast in this role. Like, he looks too pie-faced to be this badass metalhead. Like, I don't know. It just didn't work for me. And then, have you shotgunned a beer before? I instantly thought of my brother Nico. I'm so glad I was there to experience his first and second times. Pure comedy. Respectfully. Love you, brother. Man took his shoes off to shotgun a beer. This was a decent enough open to establish some characters. So I'm honestly invested at this point. We'll see how it goes.
I sold them shoes too. I don't even have them anymore.
He said,
you're rich.
Take my shoes off so I don't get beer on them.
God damn, what a rich bastard.
All right, the group's jamming out, enjoying the concert, living their best lives. They exit the auditorium and scream how great it was. Ivan asks the girls to keep the party going and suggests going to a bar. Alexis assembles with the girls, and they agree to invite the boys to their place to continue the shindig. They all walk up to the house, and Kovacs is super impressed. Alexis wants them all to go outside. Ivan and Mark can't believe this is happening. They're drinking and smoking around a fire, talking about metal bands. Bev walks off and goes back inside. Alexis follows, asking why she's being antisocial. Alexis comforts her for being new to the group and says she's proud of her. The two take drinks outside, but Bev is bumped into by Mark, spilling the drink she's holding. He gives her his jacket, and she's a bit weirded out he has a switchblade. She walks off with the drinks nervously. Alexis hands the boys drinks and tells Bev to stop being paranoid over the switchblade. Alexis asks if they want to play a game, and she suggests never have I ever. They play the game and have fun until Mark walks off and lies down in the grass. Alexis says never have I ever drugged someone's drink, and the three girls reveal they have done it to the guys. Ivan doesn't buy it, and Kovacs says they don't have to drug them to have sex. Ivan says it's gotten weird and wants to leave, but Mark is passed out. Ivan falls over, and Kovacs stumbles over to Ivan and passes out himself. The girls mock them, asking if they're tired, and begin dragging their bodies. All right, Brian, this next set of scenes, what do you think?
All right, so first of all, none of these people are in the shape to be driving. Like, there's no way they could even keep the cars on the road, I imagine, much less find the house. But regardless, we're in the second set of scenes, and the movie right here really starts to say, okay, all right, enough wasting time. Like, this is what we're here for. And I think it does a pretty good job of, again, like luring you into this false sense of like, not security as in like you think it's all good, but security as in you think you know what's up and you're kind of waiting for the shoe to drop here at the fire pit. But I don't think the first time I watched it that I expected the girls. I don't really remember, but regardless, I thought it was pretty well done. Apparently, the scene at the fire pit was originally scripted to take place in the living room of the house, and this was changed when they discovered the fire pit at the filming location. Much better, in my opinion. Much better. It gives it like an entirely different atmosphere than the inside would have. And I will say it bothered me because none of the actors looked like they were really drinking anything. And like you could easily tell the cups were empty. And that, like Nick, Dustin, you said that was your pet. Like, this is a pet peeve of mine. Like, when anything,
I have it.
if they don't look like they're fucking drinking out of the cup, it bothers the shit out of me. But now you can definitely feel the tonal shift in the movie during the fire pit scene, and especially at the end of it. And I'll touch on, more of it in the next set of scenes, but it doesn't stay like that as I expected. Like, I remember going, okay, here we go. And I expected this kind of like you kind of mentioned, like this sadistic rest of the movie. And I kind of stayed in that like mellow, dark comedy range. And so it never really got heavy, and which again was welcomed by me at the time. But yeah, this set of scenes does do a pretty decent job of establishing a relationship between Beverly and Mark. But where this starts pushing them as the victims here, I never shift with it like I meant to. Like, I don't really give a shit about any of these guys, like I mentioned. And so I think that's where the movie makes its mistake. And it makes it for the sake of, I guess, for lack of a better word, for the sake of the surprise, if that makes any sense. But I think it, affects any tension that it's supposed to have, because Mark is the only one I really give a shit about. And even that's really low. Like, I really don't give a shit about Mark either. So, they even give you like more backstory on Bev here. So it makes these girls even more interesting to me. I want to find out more about their past, but good set of scenes. And, but I do think the scenes are helped a lot by the fire pit being the location exponentially, like a lot. Go ahead.
I do agree with you on one thing. This is a movie where the killers are way more interesting than anybody else in the film. Like, our antagonists are just way more fleshed out and developed characters, in my opinion. And just, like you said, there's backstory or I would like to know more backstory and everything. So I agree with you there. I will say, again, for repetitive sake, these three are hitting fucking home runs, man. They got to feel like it on their way to this house. They are the luckiest sons of bitches in the world to be heading home with these three. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not saying it. Look, I'm not here to judge another man, but I'm just saying that's not the most handsome people I've ever seen, okay? So they gotta know or feel they're really, really lucky here. I do like this metal banter back and forth that they get into. Also, was not expecting a fucking mansion. Shout out to Nico Chin. I'm sure that's what his house looks like as well. Was not expecting a house like that. Whoa. Okay, so that's the kind of the setting that we're going to get. Well, I do, bro. That's kind of the setting we're going to get. Also, Megadeth fucking sucks. Sorry for anybody who likes Megadeth. Megadeth sucks. So Bev is being gaslit. And I will say, while I think that they kind of gave Bev away, like as far as being the little bit of an odd one, a little bit of an outcast, this feels like a little bit of a tell to me, where they're like, she's getting a little bit of cold feet. Oh, I'm so glad you came tonight. Oh, we're so proud of you. Like, this really, like, why are you doing this? Why is this scene here? Anyway, man, I do miss drinking around a fire with friends. Made me feel very nostalgic. Also, they went to playing Never Have I Ever, which I fucking loved. Still love to this day. The only thing that sucks is I can't play because I've done a bunch of terrible shit. So I'm out normally pretty easily. Hey, I'm just being honest. Here, let's go through what they did and let's see. Gone streaking, I'll put a finger down. I've done that. One night in jail, no, I've never done that. I got two up. Have I pissed my pants? No, but I shit my pants on Dustin's porch, which we've already discussed once in this show.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've never hurled in a church. I will say that. So, but look, Ivan is just like me. Like I said, he's done a lot of shit. he feels like he has nothing to make people guess. What? What?
Have you ever drugged anybody?
Yeah, you
Scott?
conveniently skipped. Never have ever drugged someone.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet, man. I'm
Oh,
not
okay,
there
my
yet.
bad.
Come
My
on.
bad.
Never have I ever drugged anyone. Anyway, all right, on to the next set of scenes. Let's do this. I'm just
Wow.
kidding. I've never drugged anyone. I don't even know how
That's
to
how
do
you-
that shit.
I was wondering how you got Cat. That was Cat. That was Hal.
Well,
hog
you know.
tie people. I don't know how to hog tie.
Really quick, I've never dished my friends to become a rock star yet. And I will say, whether it makes sense or not, I don't care. I fucking loved this twist. I thought it was really creative and really clever. I thought they pulled it off really well. Good old Dick Twist. That's right. They actually drugged these motherfuckers. I started to really like as that scene was unfolding, and I'm loving the movie so far. So I'm having a fun time with it. Like Brian mentioned, though, it doesn't ever commit to a tone. It kind of just toes the line of being ha-ha or dark. It doesn't ever actually commit either way. Whether I think that's a good thing or not, I'm still a little unsure about.
Yeah, I've been told I fear commitment too. I get it. I got pretty bored from the end of the concert through them shooting the shit at the house, like that whole scene by the fire. And I got pretty bored with it. Felt like it went on way too long. I found it funny that Bev had an anarchy sign on her jacket, yet she was such an uptight square who doesn't know how to party and is freaked out because the guy has a knife. That was funny to me. These people are babysitting the shit out of that liquor. They had like a shot at Max poured in their cups, and they're milking it to last for never have I ever. Like, I'm so disappointed by these people. But again, that's what you said, Brian. It's annoying. Like, there's bottles of liquor inside. They just poured a little bit in these cups, took them out by the fire, and they're making them last. So it's just not realistic. It's a good enough twist, I think, with the girls drugging the guys, but it doesn't make sense to me. Bev was this square even before they met the guys. Like, when it was just the girls in the car, she still didn't seem like she was as cool, quote unquote, as the others. And so I just don't buy that she would be a part of their whole group. And, I'm going to keep it short and simple. Not the best set of scenes. It lost me to the point where I'm actually skeptical at this point in the movie.
While I do like the movie, I will agree with you, Dustin, that the first two set of scenes do drag a little bit because so much dialogue.
Yeah.
The boys are all bound in a chair. Bev goes and gets a bucket as Val questions if she'll be able to go through with it. Alexa splashes water on them, and they wake up to see the horror. They see the satanic symbols and writing on the wall and realize they're the cult killers. Val tells them their tires have been slashed, and they yell for help to no success. Alexis reveals they don't care about heavy metal, satanic cults, devil worship. None of it. The cult stuff is just a cover-up to throw off the police. Mark says Alexis sounds like that asshole preacher John Henry Butler. She asks what his necklace means. It's a symbol of defiance against people like her. Ivan begins calling her out, and she becomes infuriated until she stabs him in the neck. Val is shaking in shock as the other two guys tremble. She has Mark beg for Christ's forgiveness. He doesn't, and she goes to stab him until Bev stops her and asks to talk to them. The three girls exit, and Mark tells them to get it together. He says cut the tape with the spikes on his belt. Bev wants to kill them. Alexis laughs as Val takes another piss. She gives Bev the knife and tells her how to kill them so it looks like a murder-suicide. They hear commotion and they see they've gotten free. Kovacs takes a bad cut to the arm, and Mark smacks Alexis and Val in the head with a baking sheet. The guys make it into the pantry. They tell the boys to open the door or they'll die slowly in there. Kovacs is bleeding badly, and Mark uses a power cord as a tourniquet. Alexis yells at Beverly to go find something to break the door down from the barn. All right, Bryce, next set of scenes, what'd you think?
All right, so now I've seen this twice now, and I can't honestly decide if the movie starts to go downhill for me here, or if I was just so intrigued by the start and like waiting for the turn, and it not being what I expected. It was just different. So I can't decide if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Like I said, I had fun with the rest of the movie, but this is definitely a turning point, and I just can't tell if it's bad or good for me. I don't know. Sorry, I know that's not good movie review language, but it's just how I'm feeling, being honest. I do think Daddario acts her ass off from her here on out. I will definitely say that. I think she definitely starts coming off as unhinged. And while I do think that it's a little much at the very end, I'll get there, she does a good job in this set of scenes, in my opinion. However, I do feel very strongly about this fucking evil Scooby-Doo monologue, though, that she gives to these three guys. Like, when she's telling why they're doing what they're doing, I think it's completely lazy writing, in my opinion. I think you could smartly get that across without having Alexis just spill the beans to the guys? Like, does she do this every time that they kill somebody? Just fucking like since it's Bev's first time, just have her remind Bev while they're doing it, and or whatever. I didn't like how she just gave that monologue to the guys at all. I did love the stab on Ivan though. It looked realistic as hell. I loved it. Daddario afterwards saying, "I told you to stop talking." I thought she acted great there, and it was just the way she said that, delivered that line, I thought was great. In fact, the entire scene was pretty tense right up until Beverly stops Alexis from killing Mark. Like, the music stops, the tension goes away completely, and this is what I'm talking about. The tone switches back, or at least switches to more of a, I don't know, maybe action thriller comedy type. I don't know. I kind of don't really understand Bev's plan either when they're in their bathroom. Like, obviously, she told him she wanted to kill him. I didn't buy that. So what was her plan? Was it to get the knife? But then what? Because she was obviously getting cold feet, but if they hadn't escaped, I can't grasp what her plan could have possibly been at that point if they went back in there and they were all three there. The struggle as the guys run into the pantry, I thought was pretty bad. The pans to the faces of Alexis and Val weren't believable whatsoever. Sorry, but I do think I talked about how great the movie was shot, but I do think that the way that those scenes were shot, you could easily tell those were. I'm not trying to put it down. So that was some Hulk Hogan type hitting on some people with chairs like that. That's how bad that looked. It looked like Hulk Hogan. Go look that up. Val trying to jump into the door honestly made me laugh, and I'm not sure if it was supposed to. And sorry, maybe it's more believable, but I've seen Stallone and Schwarzenegger get cut in the arm plenty of times, and I've never seen them be a little bitch like Kovacs was. And if Rambo and Last Action Hero aren't basically a documentary because they're so believable, I'm not really sure what to believe on film anymore. Go ahead.
I will say I don't have a ton here because, like I just didn't think there was a lot to take notes on. There was a lot of dialogue, which, by the way, Brian, depending on who you ask and how you feel, the Hulk Hogan chair shot from WCW is maybe the best chair shot of all time.
I think so. I just sent in the group chat.
It's maybe the best one I've ever. I mean, you hear it. Don't get me wrong. Think like you really hear the tink, tink, tink.
It looks more realistic than what they did with the pans in this movie. Is what I'm trying to say.
Don't forget the Yapapa Indian strap match, Jack. Anyway, again, I was not expecting this twist. We talked about it a little bit. I want to piggyback off of Dustin. It doesn't make sense. Just the way that she starts to kind of unveil their plot and their reasoning, like you mentioned, Brian. Like, I wasn't necessarily a fan of that reasoning, but I thought it's an interesting way of doing it, or like interesting way of trying to make the point. But I don't know. Like, it really, I like the delivery though. I thought the acting was really good here by all involved. I thought Alexis and Val were very believably unhinged and ready to murder these people. Christians murdering fake Satanists is just, it's wild, man. I don't know. Wasn't sure how gory this movie was going to be. And then we get the stab to Ivan, which I thought was really well done. Look, I knew that Beverly was going to wimp out. Like, you could just tell there was something odd about her as far as the other two go. And right here, I don't understand her plan of action either. Like, what's the deal with the knife? What's she trying to accomplish? They kind of escape. I will say Val running into the door was fucking hilarious. And so is the line, "I'm going to need a tampon," when he talked about his cut in his arm. I thought that was fucking hilarious. I'm about to cough my head off. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, I like the concept of a nationwide group doing the killing and staging it to look like a satanic cult. Like, that's a positive for the movie. I thought that's a good concept. The first kill is kind of disappointing to me. Just a stab to the collarbone. I mean, it looked great. I do agree with that. It was a good looking stab, but just kind of lame. Like, it was built up. I had such high expectations the way that the other murders were described and the bloody massacres that we heard on the radio, and then we just get a stab to the collarbone. Best part of the movie to me was when Mark hit Alexis in the face with a cookie sheet. I get it, what you're saying, Brian. It didn't look the best, but I stood up in my living room and started chanting, ECW, ECW. I was all in on that shit. Cookie sheets are a staple of hardcore matches. These guys are pussies, though. I mean, straight pussies. Hiding in the pantry. Dude, I don't want to sound misogynistic or anything, but they're girls. Like, they're pretty small girls. Find
Right.
something to beat them up with. It's not like they have guns. They have one knife betwixt the three of them, and you're hiding in the pantry like two pansies. Fuck that.
Exactly. I mean, they could have like made them, see it from their point of view, made them see blurry or like still drugged, but they seemed perfectly fine.
They
after
seemed
broke out
fine.
of those chairs.
They
You're
weren't
absolutely
slurring.
right. They could have easily, I think, overtaken them.
They weren't slurring. They weren't staggering. I mean, the one guy was milking the shit out of that arm injury, like you said, and they spent an insane amount of time in there. It's not like if they just went into the pantry to regroup, that's one thing. Like I can cut them some slack there because like, oh shit, we got to figure something out. But if you look around that pantry, there's plenty of blunt objects that they could have used as weapons. They could have picked up shit and thrown it at them. They finally do. We see later on they fashion some duct tape wine bottles, I guess, to their hands. But do that. You send me wine bottles are in there. You know how heavy a wine bottle is? Throw that shit at them. Knock them out. Get out the fucking house. But all in all, it was still a better set of scenes than the last one. So I'm teetering on, okay, there's hope. There's hope.
Hey, Dustin, you know what they could have done? Maybe taken wrap their hands in tape, maybe taken some Crisco, broke those wine bottles up, stick their fist in it, and had a little Taipei death match right there in the fucking pantry. That would have been nice. Anyway, ECW. Okay.
Hell yeah.
Taipei, shout out to my people back in Taiwan. All right, Bev makes it to the barn. Val teases them, asking if they want to have a threesome. Alexis hands Val a can, and they start spraying into the pantry. I don't know what it was, but some kind of fumes. They block the door with a chair and begin coughing badly. Mark uses some rags to block the door. A car parks outside, and the girls are on alert. It's Susan, Alexis' stepmom. She asks what happened to her forehead and why she dressed like that. She goes upstairs to get her passport and snorts some coke. Kovacs almost goes into shock, so Mark gets him a soda and covers him with a shirt. Bev breaks down in the barn crying. Mark begins MacGyvering some bottles, and Susan tells Alexis she called the police and tell the cops it's a false alarm. She grew concerned when she saw the van and lights on. She goes to leave but hears glass shattering. Susan is on alert and Alexis tries fighting her off, but Susan opens the doors, seeing the satanic symbols in Ivan's dead body. Alexis appears and stabs her in the stomach, killing her. And I gotta admit, Susan's acting when she died was pretty horrible. Val panics and Alexis says we stick to the plan, asking if she's with her. Bev finds a bunch of money in a tackle box. Val gives Alexis a lighter and hairspray. The flames go under the door and Mark puts it out with a shirt. Police lights beam into the house. Alexis goes outside and greets the officer, telling him it's a misunderstanding. The officer asks if her stepmom is here. She says she's sleeping, and he asks her for her ID to prove this is her residence. He tells her to get the ID and get her stepmom. He orders her to put her hands on the car, and she runs inside. The girls hide, and the officer finds Ivan and Susan's dead bodies. He orders for people to come out, and the two guys emerge. Mark tells him what's going on, but the officer isn't listening to him. He has them both turn around until Val appears, shooting the officer in the head, killing him. All right, Brian, this next set of scenes, what do you think?
All right. So this is probably my least favorite group of scenes as a whole. It starts out dumb with spraying whatever they're spraying into the pantry. I'm glad you said that, Nico, because I had zero idea what that was either. I laughed, though, when Mark tries to prop the door closed with the chair. Like, come on. That chair almost fell off the door while it was on camera. That shit didn't convince anybody. And that's not even the type of door handle you can do that with. And did they even have that door handle in the 80s? I don't know. But I do realize
you were there.
I was a little kid, jackass. And I realize you have to show the smoke for the camera, I guess, but that shit would have probably been clear and more effective and believable if it was clear. But let's say for a minute that they blocked the door with the towels that the girls could have easily removed unless the door's like a foot thick or something. But let's say I buy that. Is there a vent in there or something? Because it pretty much immediately becomes breathable air for them as soon as they stop spraying. So honestly, just wasn't a fan of the entire pantry thing. And on that same note, I hated all the stepmom stuff. I didn't really get the whole point of that at all. Like, it didn't really add much tension of them almost getting caught. And besides just maybe trying to imply that this church family isn't all what they're supposed to be, I didn't get it. I mean, you didn't have her anywhere at the start. So I don't know her from Adam. I don't know if she's acting a certain way outside of the house. So showing her do coke to me is pointless. You could have had the police just show up because of a noise complaint. So I mean, she wasn't needed for that either. I don't know. Maybe it was just an addition to the body count. I don't know. But the stab to the stomach, wasn't great either. But if the entire congregation was doing this cult killings, like she said earlier, and Pastor John knows about all of it, you're saying the stepmom didn't? And if this was like a post-divorce thing, then why does she still have full access to that entire house and the safe? I don't know. This entire stepmom subplot to me just has way too many holes in it, and I didn't like it. And I'll say this and I'll shut up. It's a little too convenient for me that a big bad pastor man kept pics and the newspaper clippings and money, and that Bev just so happens to find it all in a neat little, very poorly hidden folder and tackle box. So anyway, shout out to the cop, Tanner Beard. He was kind enough to do our intro for us. He was Gerald in From Dusk Till Dawn series, if you've seen that. Super awesome guy who's working on a movie called Riptide right now with Henry Thomas and Jana Kramer. But Tanner, my guy, can someone tell me how this girl snuck up, stole his own gun, and then shot him without him even looking to the side? Not even a little bit. Least favorite group of scenes. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to try to speed run so you don't have to make any edits. Here we go. Fumigating a room is a creative way to keep someone in. I thought that was pretty creative. The stuff that takes place in the pantry, I could take or leave. It kind of feels messy, but it's fun. Like at this point, I guess I was a little wrong because like it does clearly make a little bit of a choice as far as like this shit is goofy, and I had a pretty good time with it. Now, kind of cuts back to taking itself serious a little later in the film, so there's just like a little bit of like going back and forth. But with this stuff, I don't know. I had a pretty good time with it. The stepmom is smoking hot, for one thing, and she's doing coke. Sign me up, fellas. I'm in fucking love here. Let's get it. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, come on. You might not like her role in the movie, but, I mean, I'm glad the movie was better for her being in it. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, I will say she's a fucking moron calling the police. Why are you here at your old house anyway? Like, I don't know. You're not supposed to fucking be there anymore, but whatever. I will say a little bit of shock when she killed her stepmom. To me, I liked that because it did show that Alexis was very serious, very brainwashed, and very unhinged. So I liked that from like a character standpoint. Like, oh shit, okay, this shit is about to pick back up again. I agree with you, Brian. I literally write. Wouldn't you love to find a whole bunch of money and bullshit in a tackle box like that? I mean, come on, that's pretty fucking convenient. But all right, Alexis was so bad at convincing this cop, it made me just want to slap the shit out of her. Like, I would never do that, obviously, but it made me want to because, like, and I don't know if it was the acting or what, but I just thought the over-the-top delivery and the cop not even buying it for a minute didn't really work for me. Like, I feel like if you're going to go that route, maybe you have a little bit of a dumber cop that kind of starts to buy into her words a little bit. It killed a little bit of the goodwill that character had built for me. Last thing. This cop fucking sucked, though. He was a bad cop. He didn't listen to anybody. He did whatever the fuck he wanted. He was bad fuzz, brother. Him getting shot didn't even faze me, man. Like the NWA in the 80s, fuck the police. No, I'm just kidding. But fuck this particular police. It should have gotten Deputy Dewey. Let's go.
You damn right. I think I need a tampon, dude. That's a great line when you're bleeding out. Like, I laughed. That's fucking great. And it's followed with the worst coke scene in movie history. Like, she's railing lines off a glass table, and the camera's underneath. There's nothing there. No powder, no residue when she's done. Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right. Maybe it's believable to you non-snorters out there, but, I mean, me too. But there's nothing on that table. And it's outdone by the way your stepmom died. You know how you see online, like on Twitter, people joke about the Tubi movies and how bad they're acted and directed? That's basically what this is to me at this point. Like, she got stabbed, and just the way that she died was so unbelievable. And then she kind of fell. She didn't fall. She was already laying on the ground, but she went down and just sunk in slow motion to show us that she was really dying. Fuck out of my face, man. I hated that. And then what the hell are the pantry boys doing while the cop is there? Or for that matter, when the stepmom was there. You're armed with broken wine bottles now. You hear silence, you make a move. You hear silence, especially for that long. Like, they were away from the door for a long time. You got to at least poke your head out and see, do I see anything? And if you don't, make a run for it. These guys aren't trying to live. So fuck them. And this is the worst cop ever. Dude is bleeding when he finds them. And they were locked in a pantry. And you think that those guys are the suspects? No. Like, he's trying to handcuff, like, don't move. Let me see your hands, all this shit. Like, the guy's bleeding. You see he's covered in blood. So I don't know. That's not really believable to me. And then he gets his gun stolen and gets shot in the face. Okay, I've lost hope at this point, to be honest with you. I don't think that this can be a good movie.
Two things really quick. You mentioned how the mom died and the acting there. That's what, to me, I wish this movie had picked a lane, whether it wanted to be super ridiculous and over the top and that kind of cheesy acting, or very serious, which we get here in the next episode. Like, we were about to get into some more heavy, serious stuff, especially from Johnny Knoxville later in the film, and it just didn't pick a lane ever. And so you mentioned that, and like, I'm enjoying it in the moment, but upon my rewatch, I'm like, well, this shit doesn't fit. So like, I'm very torn on that. Also, side note, the Pantry Boys, that sounds like a fire name for like an 80s country duo, man. Pantry Boys, I like that. That's good.
Well, to me, though, the way she died wasn't really cheesy and over the top. Like, it was just bad. Like, if she would have greatly exaggerated and like, and,
right,
fell, then that's one thing. But she didn't make any noise. She wasn't groaning. She wasn't moaning. She just kind of sunk and then stopped moving. And so we just assumed, okay, she's dead. It was like high school drama club acting.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, Mike. Pantry Boys. That was a great line.
Man, them and
Mike
the
neither, but I was dying laughing.
I was gonna say them and the Bellamy brothers would have been back and forth on the charts back in the day, man. Come on.
All right, Mark and Kovacs make it back into the pantry as Alexis is in shock. Val fires random bullets into the pantry and the two fight over the gun. Bev appears with a boat motor as a weapon and tells him this is all wrong. Kovacs is scared, but Mark tells him he wants to go out there and fight. Val and Alexis yell at Bev, saying they gave her a purpose. Bev calls out Alexis's father and what he's doing with the money. Val jumps on Bev's back and she cuts Alexis' leg and Val's arm with the propeller. The boys run out and Kovacs tackles Bev and the other two girls run off. Bev says it's not their fault. They were brainwashed. Kovacs falls out and they get him some water. Alexis plays some Belinda Carlisle. Hell yeah, sister. Mark asks who has the car keys and says he must get them from Alexis. Mark reassures him they're getting out. Bev helps Mark up and hides him in a corner. She goes down into the basement after Val. Kovacs gets up and heads outside. He's greeted by John Henry Butler. Kovacs says the girls killed the cop and his friend. He tells him to go call 911 from his cellular phone in the car and give me the gun. He hands him the weapon and realizes who he is, and he's shot. I'm the wrath of God, John says. That's the next set of scenes, and the next set is the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, funny story, sidebar for a minute before I get into a rant. But when I was taking notes, I paused it right here at the start of the set of scenes after Tanner got shot. And holy shit, my parents had that exact same chair at their kitchen table that these guys blocked the door with in the pantry, like to a T. But that was like late 90s till like, I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago.
Saved yourself, because I was going to say, I told you were there.
Watch it. But to the movie's defense, it did look rather 80s, if I'm being honest, even, in the early 2000s and now. But anyway, all right, here's my rant. Could we have picked a better fucking, more reliable weapon for Bev? I mean, like, listen, Mark Myers, writer, Alan Treza, come the fuck on. A boat motor? Like, this bitch is not Jason Voorhees. She is not carrying a goddamned boat motor around. And have either of you literally ever used a boat motor before? Those things don't just start at the drop of a hat immediately with one cord rip. I mean, I wouldn't buy that with a chainsaw. And you give me a boat motor? Like, it's probably at this point, actually, it's really at this point, where I'm like, okay, this movie isn't serious. I'm just going to sit back, have fun with it, and maybe, just maybe, we get a good boat motor kill eventually. Right? I did laugh, though, when she yelled, "Boys, I'm coming for you." And the response was, "Fuck you." I don't know. I don't know. As the way it was delivered, I laughed a lot. But like I said, at this point, I'm just sitting back, enjoying the movie for what it is. And right now we have 20 minutes left. So I'm not bored or anything. Great runtime. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, man, I was a little disappointed. Disappointed? Wow, that's weird. Disappointed.
Sigourney Weiner. That was the.
Hey, man, that was. Let's let that one go. Okay. That
Hey,
was
Dustin,
an honest
who's the-
mistake.
And so was that. Look, the boat motor thing was disappointing to me too, because as ridiculous as that is, she was in a shed barn thing with there was a tackle box out there. Like, I can make it make sense if I really want to. It may not be great for everybody, but I'm just saying. And we didn't get anything cool with it. We got a couple slices on the other girls, and that's it. Like, man, that sucked really bad. I was hoping for something cool with that. I do like the exposition dumping that we get in this scene, kind of explaining everything that's going on. Like, I know it's a lot, and I know we kind of already know stuff, but like, now we really kind of understanding Bev's point of view and where the other girls are coming from. I will say Heaven is a Place on Earth popped me. Thought that was fucking funny. Great song, by the way.
Great song.
I said that's a fucking banger for all time.
Best thing about the movie. And that's not slander. That's just, it's a good song.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Hey. Even though Bev's babyface turn, again, shout out to pro wrestling, I thought was kind of forecasted, I still thought it was well done. Like, she's a believable protagonist, and we've already talked about how much we don't really like or care for these guys, like how much they're like kind of shitty. Like, I felt like adding Bev to their group kind of took them up a level, made them a little more believable, at least to me, because she appears to be way tougher than them. But again, I just, Ivan and Kovacs were terrible protagonists, so I was happy to see Bev added. I will say, once the movie got dark, and I promise it's not because I watched it on some fucking Russian website. I watched this legit, okay? I did, okay? And I still couldn't see what was going on when the lights were shut off. Like, I had a really hard time seeing anything. So maybe I need some fucking glasses or contacts, or they need to do better with the fucking lighting on this movie, because it really was a problem. This man had a cell phone in the car in the 80s. That man has Nico Chin money if he ever had anything. I swear, man, that is good shit. Last thing, I love the Wrath of God line from Knoxville. And I'll get into my feelings on Knoxville in this movie here in a minute, but I thought that was really good. But again, we just went from seeing a bunch of goofy shit to now we're getting back into being serious, which again is a minor nitpick that I just didn't catch the first time. Like, I really was just along for the ride. And when you get upon second review, some of it doesn't hold up. But I will say, great delivery. And I love the gunshot. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I just got two things on this set of scenes, so I'll keep it short and sweet. Bev walks up with the world's quietest, boat motor. How didn't we hear it before she appeared on screen? Because she definitely already had it cranked. Because like you said, Brian, you can't just crank those on one pull. So that's a huge miss for me. And then the second thing, huge red flag when Johnny Knoxville shows up and he's that calm. Dumbass dude has to be more suspicious of him. Like, he deserved what he got. He walks up and he's all, "Oh, okay. Why don't you just give me the gun and go get the phone and call the cops? It'll be fine." No, he's obviously in on it. And if he's not, like, you got to be suspicious. So I didn't feel bad for him. But by this point, I'm just like, all right, let's wrap this up.
All right, here's the ending. Pastor John enters the house and says, "Good riddance," seeing Susan's dead body. John drinks a beer, seeing the cop's dead body. Val stabs the electric panel and sparks fly. Shout out to Taylor Swift. Bev and Val begin fighting now. Mark grabs the keys and goes to leave until Alexis appears and attacks him. She gets him to the ground and goes to stab him, but he fends her off. Val chokes Bev with the boat motor until she ignites her hair. Val runs off screaming. Bev gets the power back on and finds Kovacs. He tells her the pastor is here and save Mark. Kovacs dies from his injuries and Bev grabs the boat motor. Pastor appears and shoots Mark in his back. He turns the music off and says she really screwed this one up. He asks how they're going to explain this. We're going to have to make some sacrifices. He grabs her and strangles her, saying she will die as a martyr. Bev appears, knocking him out with a motor. Alexis thanks her for saving her and says her dad set them up. Alexis says she's a victim and begins choking Beverly. Beverly tosses Alexis out the second-story window, and she helps Mark make it out the house. He mourns over Kovacs' death before he leaves the house. Mark doesn't think he'll make it, but she helps him into the Jeep. They drive off, and we see Alexis still alive in the driveway. Bev speeds up as it cuts to black. We see blood everywhere as the news reports on all the deaths at Pastor John Henry Butler's. He's pinning it on his daughter. He says she was confused and attacked him. Bev buys first aid goods from the same gas station and tells the gas attendant not to believe everything he sees on TV. She gets back in the Jeep with Mark, and we see she took the tackle box full of money. The Jeep's grill has damage from hitting Alexis, and her hair is still hanging from it. And we get a title card as the film ends. Brian, what do you think about the ending?
All right. So first of all, let me vehemently disagree with Mike from the start of the show and just say Johnny Knoxville to me is in the same category for me as Sean William Scott and very few others where I like every movie that they've ever done that I've seen. I enjoy watching them on screen. So obviously I love the Dukes of Hazzard remake where they're both the stars and the Walking Tall remake, even Knoxville's Last Stand with Schwarzenegger. But anyway, that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say is Knoxville is great if that's what you're going for. If this movie had been super serious, sorry, I almost got Mike voice right there. Super serious. But if it had been like
suck my balls,
That's in or settle.
But if it had been like super serious and you needed this big badass preacher to come in here and be, I don't know, Javier Bardem level bad guy, then I'd say, okay, he was totally miscast. But just the fact that it's Knoxville, to me, solidifies the comedy aspect of this one and lightens the mood immediately, in my opinion. Like, even though he doesn't come in here being funny, it just does. I'm sorry, bro, you're typecast. But the ending is fine. I didn't expect a happy ending, to be honest, but it wasn't that type of movie, and it didn't make or break it for me. Bev setting Val's hair on fire was pretty legit, I'll admit, but I was aching for a boat motor kill at that point, and I'm pretty pissed I didn't fucking get one, to be honest. And so, all right, the Dario and Knoxville scene was what I was referring to at the start where I said I didn't like the performance. Like, I thought she was great all movie, but I didn't care for that little turn there. It just, I don't know the words. It just didn't seem realistic. But anyway, I didn't care for the turn. The jump out of the window was fine because of the aftermath. But again, why could I not get a motherfucking boat killed? All right, sorry. I'll let it go. I did like the very, very end, though, to a point. But it should have ended with her saying, you shouldn't believe everything you see. And that should have been it. Like, I didn't need to see the tackle box or the truck. Just my 2 cents.
Okay. First of all, Brian, suck my balls, okay? How about that, pal? Anyway.
Wow.
Second of all, I don't hate Johnny Knoxville. I love the Jackass franchise. I'm a giant fan. And you can ask Dustin. I even liked this match with Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. I thought it was a ton of fun. So,
how big a fan are you? Where'd you go to high school? South Dual High School, Knoxville, Tennessee. What's up?
Okay, great. Go Vols. I don't fucking know. Anyway.
It's like 7 minutes from my house.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of cool. No, that actually is kind of cool. Look, I disagree because I actually took Knoxville serious in this movie. Like, he kind of, okay, not the same, but he kind of felt like Chris Rock in Spiral, like where it was kind of nice to see him in a different place, in my opinion, than his normal stuff. I thought he did a pretty good job. I just felt like the movie towed that horror comedy line and got a little serious here, and this was certainly a shift for sure. The shots of Knoxville walking around the house like a scary bad guy are pretty effective, in my opinion. They did a good job making him feel more like a villain in my eyes. These fight scenes are lost on me because I can't fucking see. Apparently I'm fucking blind. I can't see these fight scenes. I don't know what's going on. Poor Val, though. I wanted her to make it to the end. I wish I could have saved her. I would have gone out of my way to save her. It's really a shame that her hair was set on fire. I still love you, Val. I love the power coming back on. 1, so I could fucking see. But 2, so I could hear Heaven on Earth again. Because that fucking, God, it killed me to come back on right in the middle of this big fucking fight. I thought that was pretty funny. For a minute, I thought Mark was dead. And they were just skipping over it like it wasn't a big deal. I was like, what the fuck is that about? But I actually really think Johnny Knoxville does a great job playing a giant piece of shit. He is a big fucking piece of shit in this movie. I thought it was really well done. I was also about to get mad that we were about to have Alexis with a falling out of a window kill, which would have been lame as fuck. But that's not what we got. Mark is alive. It did become daytime really fast for me, but whatever. and she got ran the fuck over, which I thought was a nice touch to see her guts, blood, and hair splattered on the front of the car at the end. I actually really enjoyed the end, except for the parts that are in the dark that I couldn't see. I thought the ending was really fun, fast-paced, flew by. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
All right. Let me pull this up. Pastor Knoxville is cold-blooded. He sees his slain ex-wife and says, "Good riddance." Sheesh. And then he clearly hears girls screaming, and he's just chilling in the kitchen having a beverage. All right. Cold-blooded, like I said. Val clearly didn't pay attention during fire safety day at school. She never heard a stop, drop, and roll. Like her hair's on fire just a little bit when she figures it out. When she realizes her hair's on fire, it's just barely on fire, and she just takes off running. All right, dumbass. When Bev and Mark make it to the car, I couldn't help but notice that the van tires were very obviously not slashed, like Alexis said they were earlier. Now, she could have just been saying that to the guys to cause them to lose hope, but slashing the tires definitely seems like something they would have done in that situation, so I'm counting it as an error by the filmmakers. I'm counting it. At the gas station there, $30.67 for a box of Band-Aids, some Neosporin, and a bottle of hydrogen peroxide.
Right.
I know things are, more expensive at gas stations than they are at drugstores or dollar stores or whatever, but this takes place in 1988. That pricing is way off. 88 was a great year, though. I was born. At this point, I'm just glad the movie's over. Best part of the movie, other than the song, end credits.
Hey, maybe they got some gas, big dog. Maybe they got some fuel.
We didn't see them pump a gas.
Hey, I'm just trying to help them out. All right.
If we saw every little thing, this movie would have been 10 hours long, man.
We saw them pump a gas earlier.
For no reason, too, honestly. All right, let's do our
For
social
no
media.
reason, it was to see Val's ass. That's the reason. Come on.
Now,
But I mean, the other part, there was no point to it, though.
there was no point in having the dad like creeping on her and like
I completely
being a
agree.
horn
That
dog.
went, yeah,
But-
that went absolutely nowhere.
I also want to point out before we've wrapped up the scene by scene. So I want you all three to consider how many negative things you've said about this movie. That's all.
I say negative shit about every
Yeah, I was
movie,
gonna
but
say, we're
it's still
nitpicking here,
fun.
pal.
We nitpick everything,
Oh, Jesus.
unless it's Ghostbusters because it's perfect. So then I don't have to pick anything. But watch it, Mike.
Let's do our social media comments and questions. We'll do Facebook first. Gianna Turner commented, and if I'm saying your name wrong, please correct me on the old Faces of Book. Discovered this about a year ago. Saw Johnny Knoxville was in it, so I was like, what the hell? Not a bad movie. I'd probably watch it again. I would watch this again, too. I would watch it again. Let's jump over to the Instagram. Real Matt Sears commented, Alex Daddario, call me sometime, anytime. Day, night, middle of hurricane, text, email, send a raven, respond to the DMs. It's been years since you left me on scene.
Wow.
My Lord.
Brother is down bad.
I mean,
That's
I put it in the Call Me Sometime Hall of Fame. There's a lot of options here.
That comment, though, was like, I haven't seen thirst that much since I look at my own tweets towards Rhea Ripley. That's impressive.
Yeah, that brother is thirsty. All right, my boy Jeff, he commented, I enjoyed this, although I'm partial to anything Alexandra Daddario's in. All right, so he's a little less thirsty. Shout out to my boy Jeff. And DM Frank commented, no hard feelings for what I'm going to say about this one. Okay. And that's all we got for social media this week. Fun fact, you guys?
So the parking lot scene was inspired by the documentary short Heavy Metal Parking Lot 1986 about a heavy metal fans outside of a Judas Priest concert. Johnny Knoxville only worked for 1 day. Hell yeah, brother. Get in, get out, get your payday. The stunt woman who goes out the second story window was paid $1,000 each time she did it. She only did it twice. So that's disappointing. I would have been like fucking it up intentionally.
Two
Last
bands.
one I got's in the original script. Alexis' stepmother is her biological mother, and the third act is more elaborate as well. I think that mother doesn't really matter. She was kind of a pointless character.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you guys
The
said,
only
it
one
could
I-
have just been a noise complaint from the neighbors. Now, they seem to be sitting on 40 acres away from all the neighbors. There's a lot of land there, but
I'm
anything.
so glad she was in this movie because
Chill out, Matt Sears.
Talk about thirsty.
Yeah.
Bro, it's wild, though. That girl got paid a stimulus check.
Right?
So much could have went wrong.
Right.
I mean,
no
Brian
doubt.
She got a
wouldn't-
stimulus check.
Brian wouldn't bend down to pick up $1,000 if he saw it on the sidewalk. So that's what she got paid.
that's true.
Are you done? Are you
Yeah,
finished?
I'm
Thank
finished.
you. Okay, so the only trivia I have is that it was filmed in 16 days. And honestly, you can kind of see that because there's a lot
It
of rushed
shows.
stuff. So there you go. Hey, Mike, do you have the budget? Oh, you're not here. He's kicked out again, guys.
Yeah, fuck it. Probably just Brian's bi-weekly check anyways. Anywho,
Wow.
where are we at right now?
I'm cutting that. You're going into our favorite part of the show.
Oh, Lord. All right, guys. Into our favorite part of the show, least favorite kill in the rating. I'll go first. Favorite kill, going with Ivan. I agree 100% with Brian. I thought the stab to the neck looked great. The blood looked great. And I thought Alexander Daddario did a fantastic job in that scene with the slip into madness and just getting pissed off and like got fed up with him. I thought she did great. Least favorite kill, what's her name? Susan?
Me too, Mom.
Stepmom. Ooh, girl. The stab to the gut was fine, but when you laid down on the ground and then you did the extra fall down, that shit was terrible. I'm sorry, sis. Two big problems I have with the movie, and you guys touched on it already. When the guys got free, absolutely no reason why they should not have taken over the situation right then. And like Dustin said, it's just men are stronger. Like they didn't have a gun, like you mentioned. They didn't.
Yeah.
And they kind of just shook off the being drugged a little too quick. I agree 100%. And the other thing that really bothered me was the cop. He was super unbelievable. He did not handle the situation well. And the boat motor was horrible. Like you mentioned, Brian, you can't just at will fire up a boat motor like that. And if you do run it too long and there's no water, it's just going to burn up anyway. So, but anywho, positives of the movie, believable scenario, a horrifying scenario that could happen and did happen a lot. So I do give them props for that. And while I will agree that with Dustin that the acting wasn't great, it was believable. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want like a Toni Collette like acting delivery in this kind of situation. I thought it was just believable. But Michael, I enjoyed the movie. I gave it a 6.5.
Favorite kill, Ivan, stabbed to the throat. Least favorite kill, same as Nico's. Mom, gut stab. I wrote blah. My final thoughts, like we mentioned earlier, decent introduction to horror. Runtime helps. It helps you just kind of be able to have fun with it, not invest too much into it. Very well acted film, in my opinion, from the girls especially. Very well done on a technical level, like I said. Didn't really connect to Bev or Mark like I was supposed to, though, as the final girl and guy. I think Val and Alexis had the strongest characters. For the most part, Daddario did a great job with her performance. It's a fun little popcorn flip, and I also gave it a 6.5.
Wow. Well, let me go ahead and go. So that way we'll get the bad in the middle, because I know you're going to be more positive than me. My favorite kill, as lame as it was, I got to go with Ivan getting stabbed. It was all kind of downhill from there as far as the kills go, and that one, it was a good-looking stab. Least favorite kill was the cop. Get real. Although Alexis flying out of the window and then just standing there and getting mowed over by the car, that was comical to me. But also, I didn't mention this, but when she got ran over by the car, there was a blood trail there in the driveway, it looked like. But when the news showed up, they're like, oh, it's a murder-suicide. They didn't mention that someone was ran over. So,
Right.
Okay. All right. As far as my closing thoughts and my rating, I watched this movie on the Watch Free app on my Vizio TV, which means the movie had ads. And the best part of the movie to me was the 39 Entresto ads I saw. Every time there was an ad break, that one played like 2 to 3 times. It was crazy. They're really pushing that drug. Anyway, the concept of the film is fine enough. Like, it's a believable scenario, like Nico said. But the acting and directing were poor to me. I didn't hate it as much as I've hated a few other movies we've done recently, but I'll probably never watch it again. I'd rather do yard work in 95-degree weather or clean all the baseboards in my house with a toothbrush. Thank God it was only 91 minutes. I give it a 2.75. All right. That gives us a composite score of a 5.5625. IMDb has it as a 5.2. So you're welcome, guys. I made us look like we're in line with IMDb.
Thanks, Dustin. Any final thoughts before we just shout out the blood donors and I'll announce our next blood donor pick? A very oddly timed pick, but hey, go dogs, brother. Shout out our blood donors. Fraser Rice is a new Dream Warrior level donor. Appreciate you. Michael Evans, final guy donor. We did his review tonight. Really appreciate the donation. new final guy donor, Randy Smith, and his pick is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch for New Year's. It's going to be fun. Camper level reoccurring, Clayton J, Nina, Michelle Mirza, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, Sean Irwin, Kelsey Miller, Christopher James, and Michael Evans. Camp counselor reoccurring, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Kylie Denise, all the way from Australia, Adrian Aiello, Karen, Brian Samick, Andrew Ferguson, Matt Strickland, and Brooke Maley. Really appreciate all of our blood donors, like I mentioned several times, and we'll say it every week. Takes a big burden off of us, making a podcast. Not cheap. Hosting all your files, making your YouTube videos, website, none of that stuff is free, and it really does help us out a lot. We really appreciate it because we joke that we're all rich in here, but we're really not. Or
Not at all.
Dustin's rich. But next week is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Randy is going to watch the Georgia Bulldogs probably destroy the Seminoles, and we got to watch Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So I'm looking forward to the weekend. Y'all appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. Just want to remind everybody.
Don't go